Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is Thursday, August 14th. It's about 12:02, so I'm a little bit behind schedule today, but I'm excited to be here for another week of Let's Talk Power Live, where we talk about education through the lens of power. And people ask me all the time, why do you talk about power? I talk about power because power is a real thing. It is alive, well, and it is a governing lens, a directing lens that shapes all of our relationships and encounters. It shapes policy development. It shapes the culture in buildings. It shapes the smog in the air. That's what it is. Dr. Beverly Tatum called it called power the smog in the air. So I talk about power in education in real operational ways because we tend to think that education is exempt from all of the ways in which society at large or writ large operates. So that's why I talk about power. So who am I? I am Dr. Tanji Reed Marshall, Dr. Tanji. I am your host of Let's Talk Power Live. And what we do, I'm not the director, I am the CEO. I keep saying that director. Don't know where that language is coming from. But anywho, I am the CEO and principal consultant of Liaison Educational Partners, where we focus on the intersection of curriculum, instruction, and culture to ensure that students have the leaders and the educators. And for me, an educator and a leader, anybody who touches the life of a child in any way, shape, or form in this institution thing we call schooling. That can be the bus driver, that can be the building leader, the person who works in the cafeteria. It could be the person who's considered the school secretary and the nurse and the counselor and the volunteer, but mostly those people who are paid in the buildings and districts and state levels that run the schooling operations of the education system. Those are educators to me. And we want to make sure every child has an educator and a leader equipped with the mindset, the skill set, the tools and resources to ensure they get an excellent education. That is what we do. So here we are this week. I have decided to have a real conversation around middle school. I taught in middle school for many years. That was my favorite place to teach because one of my own personal experiences in middle school, and because middle school tends to get the least amount of attention, mainly because most of us who've been through the thing called middle school had a really tough time. Middle school is a tough place, but it is not what you think. So this week's conversation is why middle school isn't what you think. What that means is, what do you think middle school is? So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and get into it. I already told you who we are and what we do. We center power in everything, looking at the intersections of culture, of instruction, and of the curriculum. We do all of that through the lens of power. We focus on a 5-phase process of learn, of plan, apply, of evaluate, and integrate. We believe in an iterative, collaborative process of ensuring that the leaders and the educators are engaged in their own process of learning so they can create environments where young people learn as well. And I always ask you every single week. I'm going to keep asking you all the time, do you have your copy of Understanding Your Instructional Power? My conversations on power are rooted in the research I did to create this book. It is a tool for action and is a tool for learning. It gets you to the place where you disrupt the automatic responses in your brain by helping you focus on how you understood power, how you learned about power. And it really helps you revolutionize the quality of your culture. It is an educator-centered book, but if you are a leader, you might want to know what's happening in your classrooms, which I know you do. So look at it through this lens. It's like toothpaste. Once it is out of the tube, there is no going back. Your eyes are forever opened. Your mindset is forever changed. Go ahead, get your book. There's the QR code. There's a link. Before we go any further, 3 things. Number 1, have you liked this channel yet? Have you shared this information with somebody else? And I would love for you to subscribe. So hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and please hit the like button and get your book. So next thing up, people ask me why and how do I define power? If you're going to talk about power, there needs to be some kind of a container of understanding so we can think about how do we name it, and when we name it, what do we mean? So when I talk about instructional power, I mean it can be understood as an educator's use of their state, of their district, and their building ascribed job-related authority to afford or constrain a student's access to learning. Again, an educator is one who leads a building, leads a district, leads a school, excuse me, or leads a classroom. That is what that is. Next up, last year, y'all helped me and my colleagues here get an invitation to present at South by Southwest. We're asking for the South by Southwest people again to give us this opportunity to really continue what we started last year. Last year, we talked about Ghana and the diaspora in conversation around education. And this year, we want to talk about educational leadership in these political climate from a global perspective. So there is the QR code. Please scan it. Voting is open now until August 24th. We want as many people voting for us as possible. So please go ahead, scan the QR code or type in the bit.ly link that's there for you. I'm going to make it a little bit larger so you can see that bit.ly link. There is the bit.ly link for you right there. There is the QR code made a little bit bigger to make it easier for you to scan it. And you can go to my website. It will also be there as well. So, like I said, I'm talking about middle school. Middle school is that place, and it needs a little bit more attention. We need to give it its due and the attention that students deserve, because they go someplace after 5th grade and before 9th grade. They're in this place, and that place is called middle school. It used to be called junior high school, and it was literally just 2 grades. It was 7th grade and 8th grade. A lot of schools went from K to 6. Then they had 7th and 8th grade as bridges into high school. The thinking was students needed particular support in being prepared for high school. So they created this junior high school. And then, as Maya Angelou says, when we know better, we do better. Out of research, there was a determination, some thinking around, well, maybe it's developmentally, they should condense it and do some more structure around belonging and helping young people get ready in a different way for high school. So they called it middle school, because 7th and 8th graders aren't just smaller high school beings. They're a completely different thing. So then there was this idea of middle school, and it's a tough, I will say, when I was in middle school, I had a tough time. But when I became a middle school teacher, I tried my best to keep really high academic standards, but then be attuned to some of the social aspects that young people were feeling as they were experiencing that really interesting, I'll say, interesting time of middle school. So let's get into today's conversation. Well, last week, hope you caught it. If you didn't catch it, you can go ahead and catch the full segment by going to our YouTube channel at Let's Talk Power Live. Again, subscribe, hit the like button, and share, but you can get the full session there. But we talked about this particular time period being one of high potential, with the equal need for high patience. This is a group of young people where they're at a developmentally critical window, and how we understand the window in which they are where they are, it is the degree to which we will make better instructional decisions, better building decisions, and better overall culture decisions. And when I say culture, I mean the culture of the environment writ large, with all of the subcultures that go around with it. So the potential here is high. It is the last best place, I will say. And I'll get you the quote. It's an actual quote that a researcher said, and I'll get that quote out and share it. It says, middle school is the last best place for anchoring values and getting young people to feel good about themselves and setting the stage for academic success. It really is this place of high potential. But due to the dynamism, the dynamics of the developmental stage, patience is necessary. Patience is paramount. Really have to lean into, as an educator, your own technical knowledge about the developmental space where young people find themselves. I'll tell you a story. I was looking through my materials and stuff when I was in my doc program. I was trying to find an article for something, and I actually came across one of my learning goals. It was a learning goal statement. I was taking a cognition class. And in that learning goals statement, I had 3 goals. And all of my goals centered around deeply understanding the dynamics of middle school, the brain activity that's going on, the social dynamism that's going on, really looking at what's happening in that particular time period. And I found it really, really refreshing to have those memories come back and to shape why I'm taking this deep dive right now into middle school. I want to read actually one of my goals. It said, the development of self-regulatory behaviors in adolescent learners and the impact to academic success. Really wanted to lean into that. And one of the other areas I wanted to lean into is critical thinking in adolescence, particularly in middle school. But right now, just want to lean back into that idea of regulatory thinking and understand that developmentally, where they are, is putting the regulation ability at risk. It makes it more challenging because the brain is literally under construction. As I said last week, the brain is going through this pruning system and rewiring and restructuring, and which makes regulation really, really difficult. They are a lot less thoughtful. They are risk averse. So they're going to take more risks than we adults, one, know makes sense and is prudent. But also, it really is a time where they are exploring identities. They are doing this active separation, this pulling apart from the adults in their lives, making their decision making grounded in their peer group. So that's what we talked about last week. And then we really shared a power tool, the beginning of a power tool, and gave you access to that tool, which I'm also going to do today, is give you access to a tool for building authentic student agency. That is your power tool to help this group really lean into their identity. You're going to have to lean into building their agency at the same time. So guess what? And if you teach middle school, you already know this. It's a roller coaster out there. You are up, you are down, you are sideways. This time period really is one of great change. And it's like the seasons. You could have summer, winter, fall, spring in a matter of seconds because of what's happening developmentally on the emotional side, from young children becoming adolescents, the onset of puberty. That whole piece is going on, the way in which that's their pituitary glands are growing and shifting and changing, but also the pruning system that's happening. And you're going to feel the wave. You ride the roller coaster. And I can tell you, I do not like roller coasters, but it is a roller coaster. And here are some ways that we need to be thinking through the roller coaster and what's happening out there. The emotional roller coaster by the numbers. 72% feel stressed, regularly stressed. Stressed at school, stressed at home, stressed with the way our world is going, stressed in their identity and who they are and who they are becoming. In this time period, they are in a constant cycle of becoming someone. They are identity shifting, identity changing. They're putting on, they're taking off. That is why you might find a young person walking in one set of clothing that speaks to a cultural identity, a goth or a preppy or hip hop or whatever kind of a culture, that iconography that matches the culture that they're trying to see if it fits them. If they put it on, does it feel right to them? It might not feel right. So you'll see it on one day and they'll change it to another day because what they're feeling and thinking is, who am I? Right? That's the stress that's happening. And then 1 in 3 are bullied in school. I'm often asked, how is it that a child can be bullied in school and a teacher not know it or an educator not know it? It's a matter of whether or not the child feels safe with the adults, but also what people don't talk about in schools is there are multiplicities of cultures that sometimes do not intersect. The adult culture and the kid culture, while they are together in classrooms and spaces, in a lot of ways, there's a completely different separation in other ways in how they interact. So bullying could happen and it go undetected, unnoticed, and then sometimes unreported. So 1 in 3 are bullied. That's a big thing. And the self-esteem dips 60% by 6th grade, right? It takes a sharp downturn, particularly in girls, particularly in students who are racially marginalized, particularly with students who speak other languages than English as their first language, and then students from who are diagnosed with disabilities. They also feel a dip in their sense of belonging and their self-esteem. But then the other thing is belonging also declines. It declines by 20% from 5th grade to 6th grade. Here are some things to think about. From kindergarten to 5th grade, most young people had one core teacher. So yes, they might go to gym, they might go to art, they might go to music, they might have some other kind, they might go to the library, the media center, they might have those kinds of teachers, right? They're specials teachers. But for the most part, they have one core teacher. When they get to middle school, they now have 4 teachers on top of their specials. They have a math teacher. They have an English language arts teacher. They have a history teacher. They have a science teacher. So all of this change in the surroundings and the delivery mechanism of middle school is drastically different than what they're used to and what they have been used to for 5 or 6 years. So that sense of belonging in a core classroom is now broken apart. And they have to feel and figure out, how do I fit in to the English class with kids coming from all different kinds of classes? How do I fit into the math class? And then that's when the leveling system begins. in earnest and in actuality. You have honors classes. You have kids who are in sixth grade, possibly taking math of a seventh grader. You might have some seventh graders taking math that might be an eighth grader. My own children, when they were in seventh and eighth grade, took higher math classes, which put them with kids who are much older than them. So that's one thing, right? And here's another thing. By eighth grade, only 45% of students feel connected at school. Only 45% feel connected, which means 55% don't feel connected. So all of those really track to the links between disengagement and absenteeism. And we see these rises in students not coming to school, not wanting to be at school because they don't feel like they belong there. So, and if they can't control whether they go to the physical place, then they're going to maybe disengage when they get there. So why does this matter? It matters because if we cannot control the emotional reality, then everything else is going to suffer. The standards that we have are going to suffer. The academics are going to suffer, right? So that's why it matters. Engagement comes before achievement. The brain has to feel in your limbic system. That's the place where your emotions sit. That place has to be lit up before you can do the work of some of the academics, right? Because I've said this before. Parents send their kids to school for two main reasons. They want them to learn stuff and they want them to do stuff. That's it. Learn some stuff, learn how to do some stuff. And if the emotional centers are not fully brought to bear, they're going to do stuff. Doesn't mean they're learning stuff. It means they're playing the game of school, and kids are getting better and better and better at playing the game of school. So let's talk about this leader lens. Leaders, it starts with you. You must lead with steadiness, right? So that others can ride the wave. The wave is happening inside the classroom. The wave is happening in the hallways, in the cafeteria. But your sense of steadiness, your consistency, your willingness to manage your own power, your position, your ownership sensibilities, the work, right? The environment and the relationships, how you manage your POWER is going to determine how others manage theirs as well, and how the POWER in your learning environment is either contributing to negative outcomes of the roller coaster ride, or if it is affording stability and calmness through the ride. Right? Your hair is going to be on fire in some way, shape, or form, but your steadiness is going to create the conditions to determine the degree of impact. So that's your leader lens, steadiness. You lead with steadiness. And then for teachers, you got to teach for the ride, not for the track. Teach and capture where they're going. Pay attention to those teachable moments. I once took a class on brain learning, and I learned that the brain, particularly at this age, has about 11 to 13-ish minutes of active, full-on attention. And after that time period, the attention doesn't just wane, it literally falls off a cliff. What that means then is in your instructional design and your instructional practices, you have got to switch up the learning states. You got to move the pacing, you've got to switch up what they're doing, maybe how they're doing it, so that you are capturing the brain when it is going to be most likely with you, as opposed to when it's asleep. So you got to ride the wave, right? If you don't pay attention to it, if you don't know, then you're going to pay attention to the small things and it's going to derail you. Those are the things. Teach for the ride. Teach for that ride. Know when the wave is coming. Make those critical instructional shifts and changes so that your young people are caught and they can stay with you as long as possible. And then I want to make this clear. Understanding the need for emotional health of a building, of a classroom is critical. A lot of language, a lot of research on social emotional learning, social emotional development. I prefer social emotional academic development from a colleague from an organization I used to work at. She talked about, at the Education Trust, she talked about social emotional academic development for a lot of reasons, because we want to make, and her reason, which she and I did a lot of talking about, was that it has to be balanced. Kids are at school. There's an expectation of academic improvement. And if there is too much focus on social emotional learning to the degree that the academics get pushed to the side, you're out of balance. Likewise, if you have too much emphasis on academics alone, then the social emotional health of your population is also going to suffer. The idea of development is really important because it speaks to honoring that young people come to school with measures of social emotional understanding. If we talk about only the social emotional quote unquote learning, that means that they get to have to be taught. What we have found is that with the idea of social emotional learning, students of color, primarily Black students, are the ones who get taught certain types of social emotional behaviors that are counterproductive to their identities, and they get taught behaviors that are tantamount to control. So what we want instead is the social emotional academic development of a child to achieve balance. I want to take a look at what this image is showing right here. It's showing the balancing of emotional and academic needs, the roller coaster, stress, peer dynamics, the belonging dips, right? Then you've got the optimal learning spaces in the middle of that. That's what the arrow is showing you, that the scales are balanced. And then you got your academic and standards and goals right there, the benchmarks, the proficiency, the growth metrics. We all know that. We all know that both of those are living side by side. What we want here is a sense of balance. We want there to be balance between the social emotional development and the academic needs and expectations. They have to live side by side. And that's what the point is here. And so, as I said earlier, what's a power move that you can begin to ensure that balance? Well, agency, authentic student agency, where you believe in the need for there to be authentic student agency, and you build authentic student agency to increase belonging across the board. Agency is not given. Authentic student agency must be built in a unified, systemic, and systematic way. That is how you get to it. There's a lot of talk about student voice and agency, but it is mostly conversation, lacking structure, lacking authentic planning, and lacking a way in which an entire group of educators can come together to build knowledge around what student agency is supposed to be, is supposed to look like, and sound like across a learning environment. So agency building is your power move. You want to believe in it, and believe in your young people. You want to build it within your structure in an intentional way so you can increase belonging. That's your power move. So, what's the power tool? The power tool is our building authentic student agency tool. Three main things. It's going to help with your timing. It's going to help you get your timing under your belt, how to plan for it in an intentional way. It's going to help you with your capacity building. Everybody on the same page about it, what it means, what it does, how it lives, how it moves, how it breathes. That's what it's going to do. And then it's going to help you, most of all, revolutionize your culture and get you to the place where you want to be, because you know your adults and your students deserve it. So let's recap. What have we talked about today? We've talked about the emotional realities. They matter as much as the standards. Both of them have to be in balance in middle schools, right? They need both. There's an academic expectation for growth, and it should be. You should expect that. You should expect that a young person over a 10-month cycle is going to be better in something academically than they were when they came in. That's fair. Happens all over in every industry. Education is no different. It is okay to expect academic growth. But then you also have to understand that the dynamism of this particular group necessitates particular intentional attention to their emotional development. Remember, their brains are literally under construction. And then the leader plus the educator equals balance and belonging. Both of you together, leaders leading through this, right? You're going to lead with your lens and making sure that you handle the ship, basically, that your space is one of consistency at the helm, and then in the classroom, the same consistency. So both of those together. And then, as always, want to also remind you about our course. It is fantastic. It is our Instructional Power 101, our self-guided, off-the-shelf, on-demand course where you learn the basics of understanding your instructional power. It is the tool that's going to get you in 7 modules of self-directed learning to the place where you disrupt your automatic responses and create the culture you want for you and your students. So let's look ahead. Where are we headed? Next week, we're going to really delve into looking at the diversity of this group. And by diversity, and I know diversity in today's climate means you can't talk about it. Diversity is something you can't change. I don't care what you do. There is nothing you can do about diversity. It is a involuntary action. So we're going to talk about the diversity of middle schoolers. And I think probably late September, we're going to be inviting some guests to share their ideas about instructional power and what they think about it for themselves. So remember, please go ahead, scan, vote for us. We're dying. We're not dying. Bad words. We are looking forward to another opportunity to share at South by Southwest next year, but we need your help. Scan the QR code or type in the bit.ly link. And then remember, get your book. And when you get your book, do me a favor. Take a picture of it, post your book with you, and just tag us at #instructionalpower. And then leave us a review on Amazon. And before we leave today, I want to go ahead and invite you to subscribe to the channel. Please go ahead, like and share. And then we'll see you next week for another session of Let's Talk Power Live. This is Dr. Tanji. Have a thankful Thursday.